The Cactus gray paint inside of the Ford Bronco Sport is a pretty popular color, and you can see why. With this thing freshly washed, this thing does look pretty nice. This is the Outer Banks trim level of the Ford Bronco Sport, so it's one of the higher trims, but it's still powered by a 1.5 liter turbocharged engine. It's got Ford's 4x4 system and a number of other great features. This one is almost as fully loaded as it's going to get. It's got the available technology package along with the Copilot 360 Assist Plus package. There's one that it's missing though that would take it to the next level, and that would be the available Black Diamond off-road pack. That package is going to give you some solid underbody protection, unique wheels, and some graphic decals as well. There aren't too many differences between the 23 and the 2024 Bronco Sport. The Outer Banks is identical, but Ford introduced the all-new freewheeling trim level, and then they've also taken away the Heritage Limited. But outside of that, relatively unchanged. You're still going to find the option for the fender flare kits inside of the Bronco Sport, which I still haven't seen that in person yet. I've seen pictures of it online, but it would be really cool to see one of these things in person with those fender flare kits. Like the body painted one, I just think it would make it pop so nicely. There's no mistaking when you've got a Bronco Sport coming at you if there's one in your rear view. You've got these beautiful LED headlamps, the Bronco lettering in the very front end, fog lamps down below. You're not going to find a forward sensing system inside of the Bronco Sport, regardless of the trim level that you're looking at. But if you are planning on taking your Bronco Sport off-road, I'd probably still recommend you look at the Badlands version of the vehicle, because that's going to give you a front-facing camera. So very useful to see what's going on around you as you go through trails. I did mention though that this thing now has the option for the Black Diamond off-road package. So you're going to get similar underbody protection that the Badlands is going to have. And then the big difference is going to be what's going on underneath the hood. Because underneath the hood of the Bronco Sport, you still have the option for the 1.5 liter engine, or my favorite, the 2 liter turbo instead. Having said that, the 1.5 liter is still a respectable engine. It's 181 horsepower and 190 pound-feet of torque. That puts it on par with a lot of other vehicles, or even above a lot of other vehicles in the same class and the same size. So if power is your thing, the 1.5 is good, but there's no denying the incredible power of the 2 liter. That thing has 250 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque. It's like a complete night and day driving difference. But having said that, if you don't care about the extra power, the 1.5 liter more than has you covered with what it can offer. It also has better fuel economy than the 2 liter on top of that. But if you do want more power, like I said, you have to go Badlands. But otherwise, the 1.5 liter is standard in the lower trim levels of the vehicle. The warranty inside of the Bronco Sport is also pretty solid. Your basic is a 3-year, 36,000 mile, 60,000 kilometer. Powertrain is going to be a 5-year, 60,000 mile, 100,000 kilometers, which is pretty solid. But like I said, let's make sure you take care of your ride. It'll take care of you. You're going to find the reverse sensing system standard in the Outer Banks version of the Bronco Sport. And then it is going to be optional in some of the other trim levels. This one also does have the available tow pack, and it's got just the 4-pin receiver along the very bottom. Towing capacity inside of the Bronco Sport is okay. It's 2,000 pound towing capacity inside of the 1.5 liter engine, and then that jumps up to 2,200 pounds when you get into the 2 liter instead. If you were looking for something with a bit more towing capacity, you could look at either the Escape, which goes up to 3,500 pounds. The Edge is the same 3,500, and then the Explorer is going to be 5,600 pound towing capacity maximum. So there are different options in the Ford world if the 2,000 or 2,200 pound towing capacity isn't enough for you. You're always going to have the backup camera there, and then there are 2 separate buttons that you can push. So there's one, you can open up the glass by itself, which is kind of neat. And then there's another one in order to open up the door. There is only the option for a manual liftgate inside of the Bronco Sport, and this is as high up as it's going. So no power options available whatsoever, unfortunately, but still, it's a useful liftgate because this thing along the outside here has a little button for lights. Useful because if you're camping, like you've got a little tent set up in the back, or you're working later on at night, it is kind of cool that you've got some puddle lamps along both the sides. Along the right side, there's a 12-volt power point, and then a little light. But lifting this thing up, you've got access to the spare tire and then the white spigot that you can use if you ever need to fill up using a jerry can. There's a teeny little bit of storage underneath, but nothing crazy. If you ever need to change the tire out yourself because you're off-roading maybe, or you've just punctured a tire, you've got a flat, you can change it yourself. But one of the big benefits of being a Ford owner is that you do have access to Ford Roadside Assistance. And that's good for the same length as the powertrain warranty. So it's good for 5 years, 100,000 kilometers, or 60,000 miles. And that can help you out with changing a tire, with fuel delivery, winching services within reason, and a few other things. It's almost like CAA in Canada or AAA in the States, but it's tied to the vehicle and not to the driver. But it still is nice that that is available as an option. Folding down the second row seats is straightforward. Now, if you're taller, you could reach it along the back and push. But if you don't need to get into the trunk in order to fold that second row seat down, just along the second row seat along the top, there's a little button you're just going to push and pull in order to fold that seat down. And like, there actually is a pretty solid amount of space inside of the Bronco Sport, which is great. And the measurements that you're looking at, it's going from right where the liftgate would close to just behind the armrest between the first row seats. So if the passenger seat or the driver's seat were backwards or forwards a little bit more, you'd lose or gain a couple inches, just depending on how far forward or back those seats are adjusted. But that's still pretty good size all at the same time. Filling up fuel inside of the Bronco Sport, unchanged from 23 to 24, just along the driver's side. And it's an unlocked cover with a capless system that's got some anti-siphon technology built in. Minimum manufacturer's recommendation inside of the Bronco Sport is just regular 87 octane, so just regular fuel is all you need to use. Having said that, if you want the best possible performance out of it, try running a few cycles with 91 octane if it's in your budget. You will notice a little bit of a kick in horsepower and torque when you do. It's just that with crazy high gas prices right now, you can get away with just using regular 87 and she'll be fine. So I'm 6 feet tall and like I can see over the crossbars, no problem. And there are so many different accessories you're gonna find for this thing. I was just at the Toronto Auto Show and they had a bunch of different roof rack carriers that were available. They even had this thing set up with a tent, which, I mean, that is unique. Now the tent was one of the ones that sat around the back, but there is a tent that you can also get for the top of the vehicle too, which that I just think is really, really neat feature if you are the type of person to go camping and you're using this thing as you go. Which, I mean, Bronco Sport camping, they kind of do go hand in hand. But you're gonna find some technology that's different in the 2024 model. The side view mirrors in the Bronco Sport are manual folding. There are no turn signals in the mirror itself, but it does feature the blind spot monitoring system. So that's gonna highlight if somebody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. The 5-digit number pad that Ford's famous for is no longer available as a default from the factory. You do have to get it installed by the dealer at time of ordering, aftermarket, whatever the case may be. So it's now a dealer installed option. The door handle though still does feature intelligent access. So as long as you've got the fob on you, I guess even without the fob, you can push there to lock the door. And then with the fob on you, you can slide your hand in order to unlock. I love that interior color. Beautiful, I'll get to that in a second. But same as last year, you've got that nice highlight that follows through and it wraps all the way around the dash as well. I think that looks nice. Driver seat memory was introduced last year, so that still is available. You've got all of your basic mirror controls, window controls, a little bit of storage, and then this one, because it's the upgraded tech pack, also has the Bang & Olufsen, so the 10-speaker system. But I'll touch on that in a second. You've got your basic vent controls, unlock the liftgate, figure out what's going on with your running lamps. I honestly always just recommend keeping it in the auto mode, unless you want your high beams turned on permanently. And then you can increase or decrease the brightness of that cluster screen. The steering wheel inside of the Bronco Sport is always going to be a manual telescoping. And then you've got the release for the hood. The seat, like I said, I love that color scheme. It's so unique. But you're going to find the seat's power. So you can go forwards, backwards, up and down with it. There's also the option of adjusting your backrest. And then there's two-way lumbar support on top of that. But, hopping inside. This is nice. Now hold on, the seat inside of this thing is comfortable. There's so much headspace in the Bronco Sport. That's what I love about this thing. And then this one doesn't have the available sunroof. So it's not gonna be a full panoramic, but it's just gonna be just a little roof here. It is available across the entire Bronco Sport lineup, but you obviously have to get it at time of ordering from the factory. So If you want that sunroof, it is nice to kind of open it up and just opens things up a bit, but it's not full panoramic like what you're going to find in the Escape. But the seat inside of this thing is definitely comfortable. Inside of the outer bank, so it's just a two-way adjustable headrest. That's not bad. It's nice. And like even just like the overall styling, like I pointed out, that nice highlight there, but it follows all the way throughout, wraps down and around. It's well put together. Got that little bucking Bronco in the middle. That's nice. That's nice. Nice and simple. All right, so just going to show you some basics, but if you want a full walkthrough on the steering wheel, the cluster screen, or the infotainment system, you'll find those walkthroughs down in the description of this video. But let's go through some basics. So these are buttons for your adaptive cruise control system. It's nice. You've got a distance indicator. Yeah, there we go. How close or far do you want to be away from the vehicle that's in front of you? You can adjust your volume. You can mute out. And then you've got buttons in order to navigate through the little cluster screen. There's a voice command prompt, and then change songs, radio stations, things like that. Your basics there. Right stick for your wipers, both the front and the rear wiper there. And then I did mention, so because this thing is the upgraded audio system, so you've got a speaker there. You've got that beautiful Bang & Olufsen badge speaker along the top and all the way through it. I'll let you listen to it in just a second. But your push button start inside of this thing. And then this still does feature Ford Sync 3 system. So it's the last gen model. I think the 2025 Bronco Sport is going to get an upgrade. I'm like 2026 at the absolute latest, but this is going to get upgraded, I hope, to the next gen Sync 5, technically, which runs the new Android operating system instead, which looks beautiful. Touch on that one in a bit, but the screen here is nice. There's the option for factory navigation. As you can see there, nice and responsive, pinch to zoom capabilities. Ooh, hold on there. All right, so audio is pretty solid, but like I said, let you listen to that in a second. Sources, you've got AM, FM, Sirius XM, and Bluetooth. If you had a USB stick with MP3s on it, you could also plug yourself in that way instead. But hold on, let's at least listen to a nice local station there. All right, so there are a few different options that you've got available for the speaker system. So it's either going to be a 6-speaker setup, and then there's also the option for this 10-speaker Bang & Olufsen instead. The cabin inside of the Bronco Sport is pretty small, but at the same time, the 10-speaker just takes the audio quality like up a huge notch. It's like a complete night and day difference. Just tuning to a station there, and there we go. So we're gonna go. Okay, first of all, I gotta say, Foo Fighters, Best of You, amazing song. Dave Grohl, like I absolutely love him as an artist. He is phenomenal. The thing about like Dave Grohl, like when he fell off stage, got casted up, and then just went right back on playing again, that just like cemented the respect that I have for this guy. But the song is amazing, the band is amazing, but the audio inside of this thing is so ridiculously good. I love it. Love it. Like I said, tons of different audio sources. You can hook up a phone, either over Bluetooth if you wanted to for phone calls and audio. You could also hook up through Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. It is wired inside of this Sync 3 system. There are a series of different options that are available, boatload of different driver assistance settings for safety. Blind spot system, as I mentioned, so that's going to highlight if somebody's into the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. There's a ton of different options available there. There's a little tray. Dual zone climate control. Dual zone's not standard across the board, but most models do have it. There's also heated first row seats, driver passenger side, and a heated steering wheel. Still no ventilated first row seats though. You're going to find a wireless charge pad available as an option in the Bronco Sport. Pointed out, 2 USB power points, so USB Type-C, USB Type-A, and there's a 12-volt power point there too. You've got your basic cup holders, rotary dial shifter, with no paddle shifters, but there's a dedicated low gear. So you've got your park, reverse, backup camera there is pretty solid, neutral drive, and I mentioned dedicated low mode there as well. There's an electronic parking brake, auto hold setting, and then a series of selectable GOAT modes, so go over any terrain. I honestly prefer the sport mode because it holds on to the RPMs a little bit more, but then you've also got other modes like slippery and then sand mode, which some of the other modes, like the sand mode, is going to play with your traction control, stability control, and a few other things. So I personally, if you want the truest performance, recommend just keeping yourself in the sport mode because, like I said, it holds on to the RPMs, gives it an infinitely sportier performance in comparison. Got your basic armrest there. Ooh, power points on the inside. So you've got another USB Type-C, and those are strictly charge ports. So it doesn't have the data connection versus down there, which is data. Up overhead, this thing does feature the auto-dimming rear view mirror. Basic controls for your cabin lights. This would be where the controls would be if you did have that little sunroof. Little sunglasses holder. This thing has the home link system, so the garage door opener. A little ticket receipt holder on the outside and on the inside. The vanity mirror has lights built in. And then this thing extends out. Oh yeah, there we go. Just the tip, that's everything. That's gonna like literally block everything that's potentially hitting your face as you drive. But the overall style in here is nice. One thing that I would love to see inside of the Bronco Sport would be a black headliner too as an option, because you get into the Escape, like the ST line. I think that black headliner would really make this thing pop and just make it a little bit more aggressive. ST version of the Bronco Sport maybe? That'd be kind of neat. But like I said, the overall styling inside of the first row here is great. Second row is solid. So hold on. I want to set the seat up here. The way that I would traditionally drive. There we go. So with the driver's seat set up the way that I would traditionally drive, inside of the second row, I've got a great amount of knee space, great amount of foot space. And up overhead, with me sitting fully upright, this is outrageous, like 6-7-ish inches of head space. So taller people, you're not gonna have an issue sitting back here. The only thing I could maybe see, knee space, if you're really tall. So like I said, 6 feet tall is the way that I've got this seat set up. It can move forward and then backwards a bit more. So that's gonna pretty much dictate how much knee space you've got. Leg space in the second row. Ugh. It's not too bad. I mean, it'd be a little bit tight for 3 full-size adults, but I mean, realistically, not impossible to fit 3 adults in the second row of this thing. And if you've got child seats, the tether points are there. You've also got all of the anchor points there as well. The seats have cup holders built right in, which is nice. And then outside of that, like highlights, just looking at the basic styling. So you've got that same bronze highlight along the back, little door speaker because this is the upgraded audio system. Window control. This thing has just regular pockets behind both the driver and the passenger side. And then you've also got these tiny little pockets there as well. Shifting down, your basic vent control. There are 2 USB power points, so a USB Type-C and then a USB Type-A, and then a 150 watt wall plug back there too. Now one thing to note, the seats here, they're never going to be heated, and then these things are also locked into place, so there's no way that you can slide them forwards or backwards whatsoever. One thing that I like about the Badlands version of the vehicle in comparison to the rest of the Bronco Sport lineup is that there's a little hidden storage compartment underneath this side of the bench inside of strictly the Badlands version of the vehicle. It would be nice if that was available across the board, but here nor there, it is available in that trim. There is the option for the floor liners, but this is just your regular carpeted floor liner instead. So if you wanted thermoplastic rubber trays, available from the factory or aftermarket through your dealer. And then you could also look at WeatherTech, and there are a few other companies that do have some great floor liners available too. But outside of that, along the passenger side, you've got a little handle and a hook. There's a light up overhead. And there's also a handle and that same hook along the driver's side too. But outside of that, there's not too much back here. It's nice and simple. The seat comfort is definitely there though. Middle seat's not as comfortable as the outboard seats, but still, it's pretty good at the same time. You can find a build link for this specific Bronco Sport down in the description, the contact details for Formula Ford, and all the tech walkthrough videos down there too. But if you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and until I see you next time, take care.